most exciting part of the day. It's the actual innovation, the innovator, not the talker, the doer. So you definitely want to give them the attention. So this session, we call it the Australians Innovation Showcase. And we're going to spend 2 hours, the next 2 hours, first hearing showcase of startups. So startups pitching us. There's 11 startups there. We call it Ocean 11. We didn't know how to, So if we have 10 or 12, but 11 is Ocean 11. And all those startups have booths here, and hopefully you had a chance to talk to them to see what they're doing. But now the next challenge for them is to actually pitch. And they're going to be pitching 3 minutes each startup, and 3 minutes quick question session with the panels. Before we introduce the panel, I just want to mention the judging criteria. So this is not about funding. Many of the startups looking for funding. Some are currently looking. Some will be looking in a few months. But we didn't ask them to prepare a pitch for investors. We asked them to prepare a pitch which basically demonstrates, obviously, that they have a good idea, but also how can they execute that. We didn't require them to be any particular stage. So they can be very early stage or a bit more advanced. That's fine, as long as they are in IoT, doing something interesting. So the judging criteria are quite simple, and that's something I came up with a few years ago. Many of you are probably familiar with Michael Porter, the 5 Ps, the guru of marketing for the last 25 years, 5 Ps of marketing. So I had my own 5 Ps for judging startups. And the first P is the problem. So we're really going to look at, what is the problem they're trying to solve? How big and major that problem is? Because we do want to change the world, and the problem needs to be fit to do that. The other P is the product. So does the product solves the problem? Or in the way that Steve Blank, the lean innovation guru, he likes to call it, does the job. So does it do the job? So is the product is going to solve the problem? The third P is for price, and that really represents the business model. So how good is the business model? Are they going to be able to sustain themselves? Is it going to make a lot of money? If it doesn't make a lot of money, it's not going to sustain itself for the long run. And it's not going to reach enough audience and make enough impact to really change the world. So the fourth piece is the people. So as VCs, as investors, we invest in teams, we invest in individuals. We want to make sure that those people that actually can execute. And the fifth piece, it's an extra one, which for me is important, is what's the purpose? What's the purpose of your company? What's the purpose of a startup? Often I get entrepreneurs that come to me and they talk about the product, the service, what they're going to do in the next year. But I want to look beyond that. What is the purpose of a company? What are you going to do if you need to change the current product, if you need to pivot? If you don't have a strong purpose, you're most likely not going to survive. You're not going to be a major company in the future. So those are the 5 Ps, and that's how we're going to judge the next session. I'm going to introduce Ian. Ian Gardiner is a good friend of mine. We know each other for way too long. When we had, when you had much more hair and I had a bit more hair there. But I think Ian is one of the first people I met actually when I moved to Australia, which was a very long time ago. And Innovation Bay is obviously Ian's baby, and it's the first angel network investment group that was here, I think. And he's doing it, and it's only growing bigger and bigger. So that's great, Ian. And of course, he's got the AWS, Amazon Web Services hat, and he's also one of the sponsors of this event today. Next, we have Nikki Page. Nikki, you heard her before. Fantastic CEO and entrepreneur, heavily involved in IoT, run a public company. So thanks again for joining us, Nikki. Elizabeth Eastland, which also I know for quite a while, for many different interactions. Elizabeth built the iAccelerate in the last few years, which became a very successful early stage accelerator down in Wollongong. she works in she developed that whole entrepreneurialism and startup community in the Shire. You call it the Shire, right?
Yeah.
And she left a few months ago. Once the new building, and the very exciting and amazing building, was built dedicated to innovation down there for Accelerate. So, and now Elizabeth is in charge of innovation for CSIRO, in charge for the ON program and many other programs, and really working with the government, with CSIRO, on how we move forward, helping startups and getting to commercialize some of the research that CSIRO is involved in. And last but definitely not least, Bill Barty. Bill is an amazing VC, a venture capitalist. He's one of the partners of Blackbird Ventures. Blackbird has been active in the last few years in Australia, raised the biggest fund. Now there's a matching to it, but raised the biggest fund, $200 million. I think closed half a year ago, or something like that. But really show us that there is a way to raise a substantial amount of money in Australia. Before that, the funds were much, much smaller. So that's really breaking the way for the rest of the VC community, but also involved in quite interesting companies, and more recently in IoT companies. So thanks again, Bill, for joining us. All right. Give it to Ian to take us from here.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thanks, Eitan. Welcome, everyone. I'm Ian. So I crashed on some roller skates. So if you're wondering what's going on with my hand, don't really get that one out of the way. It's a bit embarrassing. So the way this is going to work, we've got 1 hour 15. So we're going to be fairly strict in the timing. So we've got 3 minutes for each startup to pitch. We've assembled, I think, 11 pretty awesome-looking startups. So the judging panel's job is to pick the top 3. You, as the audience, have a job to pick your favorite. So within the app, there is a place that you can go and basically vote for the one that you want the most. So I'm going to be fairly strict in time. So 3 minutes pitching. I will close you down at the end of that. And then 3 minutes questions. So if I can encourage short questions and fairly short answers, and we're going to get through a bit more from the startups. So, all right, should we get the show on the road?